Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about how I'm falling back in love with reading again. So my story is not unique. I grew up absolutely loving to read, and I would visit the library every week. I would have a book on me at all times. I was a huge book nerd, but adulthood came and slowly sucked the life out of me. Since starting college, the number of books I read each year has only declined. And once I graduated, reading had become more of a chore than a hobby. Whenever someone gifted me a book, it always made me very happy, just like buying new stationery does. But I never got around to actually finishing the book or, enjoying reading again. And I've tried setting goals, I've tried setting New Year's resolutions, and each year I think like, oh, I'm gonna read like a book a week, and I'm gonna read 50 books, 30 books, and it has just not stuck. But all of that has changed in 2024. And I just wanted to share how that came about for me and how you can jumpstart your reading habit too. So my first tip is to stop overthinking it. The biggest mistake I was making the last few years was to force myself to read. When I was at the peak of my reading, no one was asking me to read. My mom used to scold me if I was reading my book instead of my textbooks. It was not cool to read, it was not cool to be a book nerd, it was not aesthetic to be in the library or to visit the library all the time. I didn't have reading goals ever. I didn't even have a Goodreads. It was simple. I just liked reading, and so I did it. Hence, none of my goals for 2024 were about reading at all. I'm not struggling to reach a reading goal, so I'm not failing at it. I'm just picking up books that I find interesting or I like. Some days I don't read at all. Some days I am ignoring all of my life responsibilities to read. Both are valid outcomes at this point. The mindset, this mindset shift has allowed me to take the pressure off this activity. Instead of this being a lofty goal that I have to achieve, it's just a fun thing to do for when I'm feeling like doing something that I love. Moral of the story, I guess, is that I can't lose if I'm the one setting the rules of the game. My second tip, and possibly the most important one, has been to get a library membership. One big hurdle for me for reading, especially in the last few years, has been that books are expensive and they take up space. My life was so nomadic in the past few years that I was not really staying at one place for a very long time. So it became very difficult for me to collect too many things, and books were the first thing that I would cut out of my life if I was trying to minimize the amount of stuff I have. So having a library membership, I feel, especially for me, is an absolute no-brainer. Like, first of all, issuing books is $0 and I love it. I'm a hoe for free things. Anyways, but the other ways it is helping me is that I eventually have to return the books. So I'm never collecting books that I'm never going to read again, or never even going to read the first time around in my space. I don't have decision fatigue as to what to read next, because there's a very clear order of what I'm supposed to read based on what's available to me at the library currently, as well as when I have to return the books. Out of the extremely long TBR that I can sometimes have, I am not struggling to figure out which one to read. And since I have an external deadline as to when I have to return the book, it unconsciously is making me read more, because if I want to finish the book, it has to be before my due date. So that's good for me. Being raised in academia, having deadlines, especially external deadlines, is amazing. The library I visit also has like an online portal where I can renew books without having to go to the library myself, or even reserve books that may not be available in the library right now, but I can be put on a wait list and they will inform me when the book is available. So yeah, this kind of ecosystem of books and just getting back into reading physical books has been really good for me in general. It's one of my favorite things to do on a weekend. I think I'm visiting the library every weekend or so nowadays, and I recommend it 100%. I need a coffee break. Okay, I am tired of sitting in the same position, so I'm gonna go out and get some art supplies because I need bookmarks. I am in the middle of reading multiple books and I've been using scraps of paper as bookmarks, which is not nice. And bookmarks can get, it's not that bookmarks are expensive or anything, I guess. Some of them are, but I'm just really feeling crafty. So let's go. I feel like I should make some different shapes as well. Alright, I think these are pretty good. My God, you're working so hard at it.
Still it's not moving. Trying to change something.
I think my next point, which is another mindset shift, is that there is no such thing as the correct book. During college, I started my self-improvement era, which basically meant binge consuming self-help books and Ali Abdal videos. Now, all of that was extremely helpful and has probably made me a better person than I was back then. The idea of reading self-help books now is not that appealing to me anymore as it used to be back then. Reading about productivity and watching productivity videos is not in itself a productive activity. It is consumption just like any other form of media. Thus, I don't think it is so different from reading fiction books, to be honest, which somehow some people tend to look down on. Non-fictional books, self-help, autobiographies, they're all wonderful reads, but only productive if you take the lessons from these books and absorb them in your life and apply them in your life. The idea that fictional reading is useless or any less or more productive is bizarre. With good writing and interesting plot lines, fictional stories can depict the complexity and enormity of human relationships and the emotional range of its characters. I think books have taught me how to be brave, or how to be kind, or how to be understanding, and how to be a good person, how to be a friend, more than self-help books have taught me that. More than that, stories also help you to escape your reality a little bit. We all need that sometimes. It lets you reach into the deepest thoughts and desires of your protagonist, lets you immerse yourself in a world that is much larger than your own. While escapism is probably not the solution to all your problems, It is a little respite that all of us sometimes need. Well, if you have made it this far in the video, I would like to believe that I've at least convinced you to pick up your next read. For that, my advice would be to read something that you've already read before. Why this was very applicable to me? Because I had not read for many years. I did not actually totally remember all the stories that I used to love as a child. So I went back to books that I absolutely adored back then, and so very obviously I picked up Harry Potter. The first thing I did was that, and it was so nostalgic. I've grown out of that very idealistic black and white sort of world now. Also, who uses the word snogging? It was absolutely joyful and so nostalgic to read that and be in that world again. But if you're new to the whole reading world altogether and don't have anything in mind, then I would like to share some of the books that I've recently read that I've absolutely loved. So out of all my sort of reading favorites today, 2 of them I actually own and 2 of them I don't. So I'm just going to talk about the 2 I own first. And the first book is Yellowface by R.F. Kuan. And this was a very interesting read. I think it was highly addictive, very interesting plotline. I don't want to give any spoilers because it is kind of a thriller book. It follows the story of 2 girls in the publishing industry. It is funny sometimes, it is satirical sometimes, it definitely keeps you on your toes at all times, and it's not that big of a read. It's a pretty short book. There's dark humor, it's a very interesting read, and the way it ends is also very good. Like it's not like everything kind of is tied in a bow and ended for you. It's kind of an open ending, but I especially like that for this particular book because it's actually set in real life. So even though the characters in the book may not be real, they might as well be. It's not fantasy. So it's like their story does not end there, and it kind of can continue on in the future. The same dramas, the same mysteries kind of can continue on in the future. So that was extremely fun. The second book that I want to talk about that may not be the best one to start with, I don't know, but I absolutely love this book. It's actually a non-fiction book. It's called On Writing Well. It is written by this professor of journalism in Columbia University, and it talks about how to write and classic guide to writing non-fiction. And I absolutely love this book. First of all, it is filled to the brim with amazing advice about writing. And I feel in today's world, everyone is writing either on social media or for your work, for emails, for anything. If you're writing in your day, absolutely would benefit from this book. I also especially love how engaging this book is, because with non-fiction it's very easy for things to become very educational and not interesting. But then whenever he brings up a tip, in the very next line he's using that tip, and sometimes it's like in a funny way, sometimes it's like in a more satirical way. So it's I think I find myself giggling while reading this book all the time. So that's fun. That's always fun, isn't it? The next one, it was a library pickup, and it's called Palace of Illusions. It is by an Indian author called Chitra Banerjee, and it's a retelling of the Mahabharata in Draupadi's voice. So it only focuses on events in which either Draupadi was directly involved or she was a witness to. Now this one is a bit of a controversial read. I would not recommend it to anyone who is highly religious. I think all Indians have grown up knowing the story of Mahabharata in some way or the other. We've all watched the TV series and we've all watched the cartoons, but it was really interesting to have like this sort of feminist perspective to the story. And although Draupadi is a main character, it is very interesting how Chitra Banerjee has opened up the reader to her thoughts and her emotions and her desires throughout the epic, you know. So I found it very interesting. It was a great read for me. So yeah, I think the next one I have is Fourth Wing. Now, I think books like Fourth Wing are hits or misses with new readers because, first of all, it's a huge book, and second of all, it is a fantasy fiction kind of a novel. And I know a lot of people who absolutely adore that world, and I know a lot of people who cannot go through multiple series of books and are just not that into reading anymore. So, but Fourth Wing was a very good read. It has great world building. It has pretty good characters. I really like how gory it is because people die left, right, and center. And you know, I am at that age now that I don't want everything to be goody, and I want good people to be bad and bad people to sometimes be good, and I love when authors play with that gray area. So yeah, I really like this book, and the cover is absolutely pretty. It is so pretty. I have gone to the bookstore so many times to just stare at the next book because I feel if I pick it up and start reading, I won't be able to stop. It was really good. Well, that is it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. And comment down below what your next read is. I will see you next time.